powerful voices in the African American community are all right here on the new 910 AM Radio Superstation. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit. 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
Good morning. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. My name is Robert Ficano. We got a boatload of guests here this morning. We're starting with Brandon Brice, political consultant. We had some interesting offline discussion about what's going to happen in the next Senate race, impeachment, and some of the other things we'll be bringing up. Scotty Boman, our residential libertarian. Also on the line, we have Police Commissioner Willie Birton. Willie, welcome.
Good morning, Bob. How you doing?
Great. Well, it's been an interesting week so far, and I guess it all kicked off with the leave of absence of the UAW president, Mr. Jones, and the elevation of Rory Gamble as the acting president of the UAW, which is the first African American that has stepped up into that position. So what's everybody's thoughts about that? Do you think, I've known Rory for years. He was the regional director when I was sheriff, county executive, and he's a very capable person, but there are those that are in the wings waiting in case this becomes a permanent situation. And let's face it, he's stepping into the final negotiations. The pattern should actually be set with Chrysler. It's not like it was with General Motors. So it's going to be an interesting time. And does this mean that the power of the UAW is actually waning, and they're going to have a difficult time politically influencing? And is it a bad time for with the election coming up in 2020?
You know, it's interesting. I think so. First of all, let's just say it's history that UAW in its 80, 90 years has its first African American president, not vice president, but president. So congratulations to Rory Gamble. I think right now you're seeing, the union, the UAW has literally been losing power for years now. And I think they've been losing influence with their own workers. And I think now that, Rory Gamble has it, he's got to really put the middle membership back into play. There's been a disconnect between, as we said, union leadership and union membership, and he's got to reconnect those folds. He's got to put the trust and the integrity back into the UAW because clearly they've lost it. They've been in the press, literally, unfortunately, for the last couple of years, and so he's got a big job to fill. The opportunity is that I think a lot of people know Rory, and a lot of people like Rory, and so I think he's got to use his likability. He's got to use his capability to literally change a new direction for the UAW.
Go ahead, Will.
Assuming, and of course everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but assuming that there's actually something there on Gary Jones, it just gets to me, how is it that someone in such a high position in the most noticed, well-known union in the United States would think that they could get away with anything, such as abusing funds? I mean, we can, people my age remember back what happened with the Teamsters and Hoffa and that whole mess, that they know they're under a lot of scrutiny. It just seems like this is naive and, what's the word I'm looking for, arrogant, if assuming that person is doing any of what they say he is.
Yeah, the difficulty in all of this is that the UAW has had a history of being a very, very clean union.
That's right.
As compared to historically what's happened with other organized labor organizations and things like that. And the UAW has always been central to running a lot of the democratic politics, especially in this state.
Right.
Okay, I think previously we heard a little bit about the Labor Caucus and what that's all. Labor Caucus is the UAW.
That's right.
I remember when we used to go to the Democratic Convention, you go there, and the Labor Caucus said, okay, for the board seats and everything else, here's the direction that, that the party's going in, right? And you wonder if those type of things are going to continue on, or is, and Rory's got to reestablish that. And I think that he has the ability to do it, but are they going to give him the chance to do it? There is a whole new dynamic, too. You're talking a little bit about it with social media. I mean, are they going to give him a chance, or are they going to just simply just start creaming him on social media?
Well, Bob, the other thing is, I mean, literally, even though it's a great opportunity, this could have been the worst time to get the UAW seat, because now all eyes, literally, every move he makes, every breath he takes, the feds, law enforcement, people will be watching his every move. And so, not only does he have to go back to basics and really bring membership back into the equation and bring grassroots, but he's got to literally change the direction of where's the UAW going 5 to 10 years from now.
One of the issues, if one of the presidents has crossed over and they've actually taken money from the membership or whatever it is and enriched themselves, that's a whole different issue. What I found fascinating was they're saying, well, look, they went to these convention centers and everything else in terms of how they spent the money. Yeah, they probably could have been more prudent in that, but I think what they seem to forget is that most of the concerns they had was on the West Coast or the region, I think, out of St. Louis, and Palm Springs and all of them are actually within their region and part of the convention areas that they actually cover. Not that I'm not making an excuse. All I'm saying is that this was in their region, that St. Louis region, where they were attending conventions and things like that. So should they have been more prudent about it? Probably. But, you got to think that maybe the feds were really putting some gasoline on this fire by what they were doing to make it look like it was perhaps a little bit worse than it really was.
Now there's the political angle, too, is how much of this is criminal justice and how much is politics, because the UAW does have a lot of political clout, and they clearly are supporters of Democratic candidates in the Democratic Party, whereas you have the federal government, the enforcement arm, being led by Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah, the U.S. Attorney is appointed. Look, there's no secret about it. The U.S. Attorney is appointed by Donald Trump, okay? And if they're on a mission to go after unions and things like that, I'm sure that he's got his marching orders in order to follow it. Now, if there is corruption and there are things that are wrong, of course they should be pursuing it.
Well, but wait a minute. Couple things here. People didn't realize that the first election of Snyder, he got the UAW support, and even the president originally got the union support. And so let's be careful when we try to point to say it's politics.
Trump was endorsed by the UAW?
No. Trump was supported by labor, not necessarily the UAW. But my point is that I think one of the biggest challenges right now is that we're talking about where do we go from here. We're talking about we have a new president, we have an African-American president, which is historical, and now we're talking about how do we change the narrative to essentially bring the good neutral name back to the UAW, and Roy's got a challenge.
Okay, we got some callers on here who want to weigh in. Ken, you're on with the panel.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm not in the union. I have worked in unions before, and that's the sort of thing. I'm cognizant of the fact that they were very important in helping establish the middle class. But hey, look, let's just talk about the elephant in the room, and this is across matter of fact, it's across the world. It's called corruption. And the one thing that I see, and by the way, I don't know why, after 80, 90 years, that we're getting the first African-American leader in the union. That, to me, that doesn't make any sense either. That should have happened a long time ago. That's my own thoughts on that.
Agreed.
They don't have direct elections in the UAW, by the way. They do it by regions. And then, local support. I mean, it's a different system. It's not a direct system. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a corrupt system. Let's just say that. And that's my own thoughts. I mean, I'm sitting on the outside, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the country, and I've served my country, and I'm looking at this, and come on, you guys, don't insult people by ignoring the elephant in the room. And whether it's in local politics, state politics, federal politics, who's ever in the White House, none of that. UAW, it's about the pay. That's what it comes down to. These greedy punks that took this money, they undermined the rank and file, And you know what? I talked to rank and file members, and they've known about this garbage forever. And as long as people, quote unquote, get theirs, they're going to throw anybody and everybody under the bus. Matter of fact, this idiot running the city of Warren, how does this man check the boxes? No, let's check the boxes. Let's check the boxes about these alleged tapes that have come out. You tell me how that idiot is still in office. Where is the uprising?
Ken, you know what it is? It's sort of like the Daily thing in Chicago. You deliver all these services, people seem to ignore everything else that you're doing.
But that's
I'm just surprised the audio's on tape and not digital file.
That's called public service.
That's my point, gentlemen. Is that, you know what? Here, look at it this way, and some of the folks that come back and are dealing with the tragedies of war and the families, I can damn well guarantee you that when those people were serving overseas for the United States of America, we're not doing it so some political hack could take their own free ATM out of the system. It's corruption, folks. If America ever goes down, it will never, ever, ever happen by another country. It'll happen from the inside, from people who either do it deliberately or the cowards that sit on the side. End of story.
You know, Bob, I actually want to comment on that last caller. I think we've got a much bigger issue, bigger than the UAW, bigger than what's going on in Warren, bigger than what's going on at City Hall, bigger than what's going on at the White House, and it's called, as a nation, we have accepted and turned numb to the ills of political corruption. At one time,
Correct.
It was shunned. Now, we got this, what they say, everybody's doing it. It is what it is.
And you know, the thing with Fouts, too, it's, I'm just wondering, it'd be interesting to hear some of his supporters in Warren, who obviously exists since he keeps getting reelected.
It looks, and he's got an election coming up, I believe, because he changed the charter to do it.
Maybe you can make up a name if you call in just as an anonymous caller. Do you honestly believe that he is not the voice on those recordings, or do you just not care? I'm wondering about that.
It's sort of like the Trump syndrome, isn't it? I mean, you can hear Trump say all these things and do all these things and all the stuff that he does, and his base never deserts him.
But you know what? But hold on. But
he was right about that thing about shooting someone
on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, that his supporters would still support him.
Guys, this is the epitome of politics in that, and we could have said the same thing with Bill Clinton. We had impeachment trial, but at the end of the day, people looked at Clinton as delivering. And so I think the biggest challenge that we see is you can be corrupt, which is unfortunate, but are you delivering and doing your job?
Yeah, which brings up the whole issue that Trump, when he's running, he's going to point to like the last job numbers for the past month.
Pocketbook politics.
For October and say, look, he didn't create it, but he's going to take credit for the 138,000 jobs that were created. He says, do you want to change? Do you want to change in the middle of this? Are you? And then, the Democrats on the far left, what are they doing? We're saying we're going to take $2.5 trillion to solve some of the problems and things like that. People are getting a little queasy about some of that.
Bob, none of the Democratic presidential candidates talked and focused on the economy. They talked about all this other stuff, but very few, with the exception of Bernie Sanders, who I didn't agree with his plan, but he was the only one that actually talked about an economic plan. Most American folks don't care what's going on in Benghazi or in Libya or in Hezbollah. They care about
Or the Ukraine.
Do I have a job tomorrow? That's what they care about.
Yeah, and what am I going to be able to take care of my family?
There you go.
They've always said you vote on pocketbook issues. That's right. What generally has come down, which goes to Ken's point, our caller, saying, are they just numb to just some of the corruption that you see? I mean, you think of third world countries and things like that paying off. Or look at what happened in Lebanon, okay, that they got so upset. What was it? They put a tax on WhatsApp, and the people finally went nuts on it, because why? That tax was going to the office holders, and they couldn't perform any other services.
That's right.
They just kept taxing, and now you got a full running around in the streets in Lebanon and things like that. Why? Because of a tax on WhatsApp, on an app.
It's pocketbook politics, and I think one of the
bingo.
whether you look at What's going on in Warren? People still think he's delivering. What's going on in City Hall? We got some major issues in City Hall, but you won't know it because you see the change of Detroit.
I think a lot of people are going to see some downside on Trumponomics. So he keeps pointing at the job numbers. But, he got 8.3 trillion increase in the national debt. So whatever increase in jobs there are, a lot of that's paid for by mortgaging the future generations with that huge surge in the national debt.
Well, I guarantee you, he's going to pump up that. Trump's going to pump up that economy until a year from this month.
Mark my word. There are two things that are going to guarantee his reelection. One, and we talked about this earlier, guys. Not to change topics, but the impeachment thing. Representative McCarthy said something very powerful. He said, and I quote,
he's the Republican minority leader in the House.
Yeah, he said, they want to take away the American people's right to vote next November. And I said, oh, man, this is a problem.
Yeah,
because the narrative
Democrats started too late on, on the impeachment.
That's right.
They have, which is...
gentlemen, we had presidential debate here in the city of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
It was July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an opportunity to get up there and talk about the issues here pertaining to the great state of Michigan, the state that we are living in. They didn't talk about Detroit issues. We didn't hear anything about jobs and the economy.
Yeah, they just sort of made a cursory pass. A few of them did, going through some of the neighborhoods and saying, this isn't right. And we don't hear any solutions.
Exactly.
Yeah, if someone wants to win, maybe they could try not taking Detroit for granted. And if they're the person that actually is willing to walk into the neighborhoods, walk into the union halls, walk into the community meetings in the city of Detroit, and talk to the people directly face to face, I think that makes a huge difference. I mean, nothing makes a bigger difference than face to face contact.
In the flesh. Yeah. Jeff, you're on with the panel here. Jeff?
When you're talking about union UAW leaders taking money on the table and stuff like that, they've been doing that for 40 or 50 years.
Exactly.
They didn't do it at the magnitude that they did. That they do it now. They did that years ago, especially when you had guys working in foundries and stuff, could have sued the company about silicosum and everything else. And what they did, they took a backroom deal with the company because UAW, if you're a plant manager, you like that manager more like in the company favor because you'll have less problems with it. I know all about it. Sure, they didn't do the magnitude that they doing now. When you had union officials 40 years ago had money where they could buy apartment buildings and everything else, they wasn't no millionaire. They was getting kickbacks from way back then. The only thing about them back then, they was more united with the workers and they fought for them. That's it.
Well, Jeff, don't you think that the federal government, Republican particular U.S. attorneys and stuff like that wouldn't be strongly looking at it? Look what they did to the Teamsters. I mean, if there was real corruption there in the past, I think they would have gone after it. At least the Republican administrations would have.
Bob, this is why whether you are a prosecutor or a attorney general or a U.S. attorney, it's important to just do your job. Stop picking and choosing what you want to investigate and what you don't. Do your job.
Okay. Well, I see.
Well, we're going to have more to talk about City Inspector General and AG later on in this show. But
I was just thinking about
the UAW. This is a new day for the UAW. I want to just go off and just say congratulations to Roy Gamble. He has the opportunity to make some good and turn the UAW around. And so right now, all eyes is on the UAW. All eyes is on Roy Gamble. Roy Gamble.
Really quick, one thing I want to see come out of Roy Gamble's administration is for so many years there has been a conversation on diversity in the skilled trade unions across the United States, but it's just been talk. I'd like to see Rory Gamble push the agenda to say some of those labor-based opportunities that are underrepresented, it's time minorities got on the ball and got in. I think Rory can be a very successful president if he keeps his focus on the membership.
That's interesting because the skilled trades in most of the UAW plants are separate, and they're usually the older workers.
Right.
Versus when you talk about skilled trades outside of the UAW, like the carpenters and some of the others. Now we're starting to cut inside baseball here, but probably they've been pushing a lot harder on the outside ones than on the inside ones because they're protected by some of the seniority and things like that. Okay, before we go to the break, real quick, Jackson, you're on with the panel.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Enoch Jackson. I retired from the UAW. I worked under Roy Gamber on the Region 1A for years. I was a chairperson of the Civil Rights Committee, and I also just recently resigned from the Retirees Committee. And I think Roy Gamber is the person to be the head of the UAW, not just because he's a person of color. I think he's earned it. And I know Roy Gamber personally, and he's a very honest, hard-working person. And I just think it's just a big plus for the UAW and everything. Of all the things that happened in the UAW, and of all the things I know about Roy Gamber, is that he's been very fair and very outgoing and very equal and appreciative of people, all people, and especially he believed in giving a person the break that he deserves.
Mr. Jackson, what local were you out of originally?
1770. You remember me, 1776.
Yeah.
It's a great year.
Well, it was, but it's a great local too.
Yeah,
that's part of it. Mr. Jackson, what do you see the UAW coming back quickly, or my concern is the loss of influence in the electoral politics and stuff like that. And one of the challenges that seems to be for the UAW is that the younger workers, a lot of them don't understand the history of how the UAW and what they did. And it's not excusing any of the things that might have, if something illegal happened, I don't think there's anybody in the UAW who hasn't said, go ahead and go after it. But I think in all of this, with the broad brush, they're trying to paint the history away, what the UAW actually stood for and what they've actually done for a lot of the people, especially in this state, in this region.
Really, you just don't know. You wouldn't have a 40-hour work week. You wouldn't have the holiday pay you get. You wouldn't. I remember when they can work us from can to can't, and there was nothing you can do about it but do the job. I mean, it just so much happened in so many ways. I mean, and people are just not giving the union the credit it's due. Yes, well, we got a problem now. I guess that's the way thing goes when the greed, when people turn towards money, the greed of money, and forget about representing the people. In the olden days, we cared about the people. When I was in the union, I never got a salary, but I was glad to do the work. And and that's just the way it was in those days. I've been retired since '93.
Wow. And one of the problems is that in the contract negotiations, the retirees aren't able to vote, which means they probably don't get the increases and stuff to keep up with inflation and the rest of it.
We haven't got a pension raise. I'm not talking about Social Security. A pension raise since 1971 because a Republican made it a law that nobody could sit at the labor table when they were bargaining and argue for the rights of the retirees to get a retirement. And that's what I was going to beg try. That's what I'm going to try to talk to Roy Gamber about, to give us some kind of a bonus or something, because...
Well, you used to get a Christmas bonus, I know it was $300 or whatever it was, but they've even taken that away.
They didn't just give you a pen?
Well, we got that because of some type of investment. And then when things changed, I think the interest of the investment, it played out, and we don't get that no more. Now, the last contract, we got a $500 just one time under that president. Now, I don't know what we're going to get under Roy Gamber. I hope we get something.
Okay. Well, we're way over. We have to go to break. I appreciate, Mr. Jackson, all that you've done for the UAW and for. I'm an optimist, so I want to say that Rory's going to do well. And I've known Rory for years. He's very competent and able to do it. I think he can bring people together. It's a matter of whether. It's a matter of whether I hope the young workers are going to understand the history and give him an opportunity to really push forward and to make sure that if there's reforms needed, I think he can implement it, and also to get them politically back on track to really be the influence that they should be. So
believe me, if Roy can't do it, nobody can.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jackson. Okay, we are way late. We should be going to break here. Our board manager is going crazy on us, so we'll be back 1 minute. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. You can call us at 313-778-7600.
I am Arthur Bricker. I am inviting you to Bricker Tunis Furs huge blowout sale. Bricker Tunis is celebrating 103 years of giving Detroit the finest selection of furs anywhere. Bricker Tunis has a special consignment rack where you can get previously loved high-quality designer furs at 50 to 80% off below retail, starting at $199. No more than 2 to a customer. If you're looking for something special, you'll love our selection of new men's and women's European designs in mink, sheared mink, chinchilla, cashmere, and leather. I'm giving Bricker Tunis customers purchasing a fur or leather on sale for $3,000 or more their choice of a free travel getaway. Free tickets for 2 to Paris or London or many other destinations. You buy, you fly, or cruise on us. November 1st through 3rd at Bricker Tunis Furs, 6710 Orchard Lake Road. For more information, call 248-855-9200 for hours or visit our website at brickertunisfurs.com.
40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful. That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled, and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded, so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
The day you lose your strength is the day you lose your independence. Muscle is lost with age, affecting your energy, balance, and mobility. Before you know it, you're depending on others just to get through the day. But you can reverse and prevent muscle loss. Introducing MyoHealth, a revolutionary proven approach to increased muscle strength and function in as little as 30 days. Live life on your terms with more energy and confidence.
After a serious health issue put me down, MyoHealth's getting me back up again.
I'm doing activities that I haven't done for a long time. It really works.
MyoHealth is a safe, natural dietary supplement, the result of decades of research and 24 human clinical studies. You can live stronger at any age with greater strength, mobility, balance, and energy. Call or go online now and take the MyoHealth 30-Day Strength Challenge.
So you've decided to go to college. That's cool. So pop quiz. Which is a better way to earn your degree? Commute to college and fill your gas tank, get stuck in traffic, drive in bad weather, try to find a parking space, walk a half mile to class, or learn online at Independence University. In the park on a bench, on the beach on a towel, or on your couch with your kid. Your campus is wherever you want it to be. You don't go to college. College goes to you. That's independence. That's Independence University. You schedule classes around your schedule, and all your supplies, including a brand new laptop and tablet, are included with tuition. At Independence U, you'll learn from professional instructors with real work experience. You'll get personal support in school and employment assistance when you graduate. Get your degree, but keep your life. That's independence. That's Independence University. So if you're really smart, you call now.
Call 1-800-556-7791.
Independence U for an independent you.
Call 1-800-556-7791.
Good morning. You listen to 910 AM, the Superstation. I'm here with Brandon Brice, political consultant, and with Scotty Boman, our libertarian. Also on the line with us is Willie Birton, police commissioner. We got Darryl Brown, that police commissioner, who's calling in. But before we get to him, Percy's been holding on for a while. So, Percy, what's on your mind here?
Just wanted to get some clarity. Just wanted. Did I hear that your host was saying that the UAW endorsed Snyder?
No, I don't think the UAW supported Snyder. No, not in the election.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to get clarity on that. That was something I misheard.
Percy, here's one of the dilemmas, like the UAW officials I've talked to, like bringing around to Trump. The UAW official told me, you know what, for years we've been telling everybody that NAFTA's bad.
Right.
We go on for 20 years, NAFTA's bad, NAFTA's bad, NAFTA's bad. I'm talking about 2016 now. Sure. So what happens is that Trump comes out and says, yeah, I don't like NAFTA. We're gonna tear it apart. We're gonna do it anew again and things like that. So what suddenly happens? You know, he said, we've been telling our membership for 20 years it's bad.
Right.
And Clinton, her husband, was the architect of it. That was part of it. And it says, yeah, sure, the UAW is for Clinton and things like that, but part of the membership saying, well, okay, why aren't we supporting Trump? Because he's the one that's going after the NAFTA agreement.
Bob, let me actually add to that also. The comment.
Wait a minute. Now, he just made a statement saying that he would go after it, but when it actually goes to doing the work and what has he actually done, he hasn't done that. So that's
I agree completely with you. I'm saying during the campaign, he talked about that NAFTA was a bad agreement. He wanted to tear it apart. Actually, he did renegotiate it, things like that. They still got to vote on it in the Senate with part of it. But he mouths, or he parroted what the labor union had been saying for 20 years.
You know, Michael Moore, I think, was one of the first people to predict that Trump would win, and other people thought he was crazy, but he had been bringing it up because of the whole NAFTA deal.
Let's be clear, gentlemen. The issue was, if you remember, Bernie Sanders was very was very against NAFTA, and when he got out the race, Trump literally took his platform and ran with it. And, I mean, as a result, Trump, from the last time I checked the numbers, actually won downriver. And so what that said that there was a disconnect, that some labor supporters actually agreed with the president's direction on labor.
But the problem is that he has a track record of 4 years, and they know he says all sorts of stuff, but he doesn't get any results. He doesn't do anything.
He says a lot of stuff, but he doesn't actually sit down at the table and resolve the stuff. You know, and then the other thing that that kind of just irks me is when I'm always hearing about, when we're talking about certain presidents or how they didn't do anything about NAFTA, is that you don't hear anything about the majority control powers of Republicans when they got the majority of them reversing stuff. And they could reverse it if they was to take it to the floor and have a vote on it. And look how they went after the Affordable Care Act and tried to reverse that. So why aren't they screaming and hollering trying to reverse the Affordable Care Act, and why aren't the Michigan Republicans with control and Lansing trying to reverse the prevailing way?
So Percy, I actually think this is a very interesting question, because I think this has been an unfortunate downward spiral in that when it comes to labor, everybody benefits, and I actually think that the GOP in our state needs to have a reasonable relationship with organized labor here, because the bottom line, and that's true, that's true.
Just like you heard that gentleman that got on with the retirement, or how they put in a policy where the retirees can't even be negotiated when we do our negotiations.
Right.
The policies that the Republican majority put in place hurts labor more than and I'm going to get away from just saying Republicans or Democrats.
Sure.
I'm going to say the present majority control powers that are in power right now, which happen to be the Republicans, they are not doing anything to strengthen labor. They're doing stuff to hurt labor.
Yeah, and they've had a history of doing it. I mean, not only did they weren't just neutral, they were vicious about it. Right to work, a lot of the different laws that they had passed was an actual attack on labor. It wasn't that they were staying neutral or saying we want to work with them.
Right.
They were saying we want to actually gut them if we can do it. They wanted to take away their political power.
It's like all the time we've been on strike. We haven't, nobody from all this on the Republican side is this present Republican side that came and put emphasis on trying to support the workers. You know, on what's going on with the UAW negotiation right now.
You haven't heard any Republicans stand up, including Trump, stand up and say, look, this is right. We got to be fair to the workers on this. You've made billions of dollars.
And you know what? This would have been huge if the president, even politically, just came out during the negotiation, said, these guys deserve a decent wage, and actually spoke up in support of this.
But that would have been smart.
That would have been very smart. That would have been very smart.
Wasn't that the purpose of the previous tax bill that they passed, where they were saying that, you know, if we give them the type of tax rate, then they will take it to the workers? And it just goes to show more and more.
But instead he increases taxes on a lot of working people.
Or why they have to take care of the workers.
And it would have been even smart. It would have been even smarter because Trump has already beat up on General Motors anyway. So what do you have to lose by supporting the workers?
That would have been a cherry.
You know, he's gone after Mary Barra and everybody else in the past. What would be wrong with supporting the workers at this point?
But all in all, I'm going to go ahead and leave it. But what we need more than anything is more citizen participation to hold these officials accountable. And we need more union membership participation to hold our leadership more accountable. When you go to a lot of union meetings, you got the same old guys coming to the leadership meetings.
Right.
A lot of the older ones, too, Percy. That's the problem. You don't see a new generation of them coming up.
They should be showing up like they should be. And that's what we need more. And the same with our citizen participation in our states. We need more and more of our citizen awareness to be more engaged in holding these officials and leadership accountable. And I'm going to leave out with that.
Okay, thanks, Percy. Have a great Sunday.
Okay,
we're going to have a quick update. Serena and Walter, hold on. We're going to be with you in a minute. Darryl Brown, Police Commissioner, said he's on the line with us, and we just lost him. Okay, he's going to be calling back, I'm
holding
sure.
people accountable.
Yeah, okay. Serena, you're on with the panel here?
Hello, hi. How are you doing this morning?
Good.
Basically, my husband worked at Chrysler, and I had some issue with the UAW. He died in 2010. They just sent me a $79,000 check last summer. I have to pay outrageous taxes. They didn't take the taxes. I've been downtown to talk to the UAW. They claim they couldn't find me. The UAW is not there on Jefferson anymore. So do you all have a number where I can get in touch with Chrysler UAW?
Yeah, Serena, they are still down. The Solidarity House is still on Jefferson Avenue there. You can still go over there and that's the international. That's actually the international headquarters. It's still there, and it's still active. So if you were to go there, you should be able to find out someone. Who you should call is Cindy Estrada's office. She is actually head of the Chrysler, operation. And if you ask for Cindy Estrada's office, they should be able to help you on some of this concerning some of your husband's, issues with the UAW.
Okay, Cindy Estrada.
Estrada. E-S-T-R-A-T-A. Estrada.
Estrada. Okay, Cindy Estrada.
Ask for her office. I don't know if you'll be able to get her, but ask for her office. Okay?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you. Have a happy Sunday.
Okay, you too. Thanks. Okay. All right, we're back. Darryl Brown's back, going to give us an update here. Darryl, Police Commissioner, how you doing?
Great, Bob. How you guys doing this morning?
Good. You had an update on some of the things going on, you said, with the police Board of Commissioners?
Yeah, apparently that we were told that the rulings of the Inspector General have to be complied with. And you're going to see more things coming out now. If you look at the last meeting where we had to de-appoint the staff and then reappoint the staff in a public forum, and that was correcting the issue that they were hired I'm not going to say illegally, it was unethically, and it didn't follow the means of the charter.
So are the same staff basically being put back, being reappointed though?
The office staff, except right now we haven't decided anything on, I believe it's Gregory Hicks and Faye Johnson. Those issues with them haven't been decided upon because there's still another arm of what the Inspector General requested in her report that they be disciplined. And I believe the board is going to meet again to discuss how that's going to play out. And also, let's not forget the situation with Willie Bell, that she found out that Commissioner Bell was guilty of violating the charter.
Okay, why don't you bring us up to date on some of this, Daryl? So what did Commissioner Bell do that the IG said was violated?
Basically, she said he violated the charter by de-appointing Robert Browne without the consent of the board. And he did it on his own. It wasn't in a public forum. It wasn't voted on by the board. And also, they recognized the fact of the budget issue, that they took the budget before City Council, and the budget was never approved on. The BOPC budget, let me say that it's different. It's two separate budgets.
Okay, explain what that is. Which budget is that?
So we're talking about the Board of Police Commissioners budget.
Okay.
Was never voted on and approved by the board.
How big is that budget, Daryl?
About $3.4 million.
Woo! So they just, in essence, by fiat, said this is how we're going to spend the money?
That's basically what they said.
Okay. And they brought it in front of the City Council. Did the City Council ask, has this been approved by the Police Commission Board?
Yes. City Council did the responsible thing. They did their due diligence and asked a question. And you can go look at the videos that Dale said that he approved the budget, and they told us he couldn't do that.
So the City Council sent it back and said you have to have the Police Commission Board vote on it?
Right. So that issue has to be resolved.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that still hasn't been resolved yet.
You know, Bob, I feel like I'm listening to something out of House of Cards or something. I mean, this is perturbed. I'm Francis Underwood today. You know.
Wow.
Commissioner Browne. Commissioner Browne. You know, explain to the listening audience this morning, who is Gregory Hicks? What is his position? What is his role? Along with Faith Johnson, so the listening audience can know who these individuals are. What type of decisions have they been making? What about including the full board?
So Gregory Hicks is the board secretary. And when I came on the commission, he was saying to me he had his duties is basically to run the day-to-day operation of the office, of the staff. But he overstretched his bounds with hiring and firing and making all these promotions. Like he was the one that gave Robert Browne the promotion from administrative assistant to executive manager, and changed his job description where he would essentially meet the qualifications, which were not correct and were not proper. And the Inspector General's office ruled that basically, according to the charter, says that the board is supposed to appoint a board secretary, a chief investigator, and hire staff. So she said that we cannot delegate our charter-mandated responsibilities to anyone. And when I came on the board, Hicks was telling me that he had delegated authority, and I said, you don't have any delegated authority that I haven't given you. So the board secretary, they didn't do the proper thing to bring that issue back before the new commissions, because the face of the board had changed, and see if we were in agreement with whatever this little letter or policy that I still haven't seen to this date that he was supposed to have had in his possession. Let me not say that, because I have seen the letter since then, and it's not even signed. So no one signed off on this alleged delegated authority that he had. No one takes responsibility to say that they gave him this, but somebody did.
So it was so Daryl, you're telling me, Commissioner Browne, you're telling me that it was an unsigned letter that he had saying that the authority was delegated to him?
The copy that I've seen is not signed by anyone.
Is there a name printed for a signature?
There's no name printed on a signature. I looked at it, Bob, and I didn't see anything on there.
This is really bizarre.
So wait a minute, guys. Hold on. So you're telling me that a document got issued that didn't have a standard signature on it?
That is correct, Brandon. And these were the questions that I was talking about. That okay, if you have this authority, produce this document so I can read it and look at it and see if it's something that I want to accept.
Now, if it had been signed, because it sounded like a minute ago you were saying that that the board could not delegate away their charter mandated authority, but now it sounds like the letter didn't even do. I mean, the letter wasn't signed, so that authority wasn't even delegated.
Yeah.
So, if the letter had been signed, would this still have been ruled improper?
Yes, according to what this gentleman was saying, that we can't delegate that charter mandated responsibility, and that was the main piece.
Would that include towing?
And to the panel.
Scotty Boman, we're not getting into towing today. And no, it would not.
Yeah, towing is no towing discussions today. But I will say this: there will be discussions at a later date. But what I also like to add here is Commissioner Darryl Brown has been on the right side of the issue from the whole time he joined the Board of Police Commissioners in 2017. But you got people like Commissioner Willie Bell out of District 4, Commissioner Lisa Carter out of District 6, and you got others. For some reason, they don't want to do the right thing.
Commissioner Burton, one of the things that this whole jujube politics that's going on with you guys, I'm just amazed. I mean, and I'm gonna take a straight point. Where's ML Eric? This is a real issue. Where's the news? Where's the Detroit News? Where's the Free Press? Where you at?
Brandon, let me say this, that some of the things we cannot talk about because we are bound by confidentiality issues for attorney-client privileges. When we get things from the law department, they're telling us it's privileged information and we can't talk about it. So if we do that, then we're just as guilty as they are, even though that if we did that, we're protected by the whistleblower law.
Here's the reality. Here's the reality, guys. Hold on, guys.
Darryl Brown and myself was the ones that's been blowing the whistle.
Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is something stinks, and it's time that Metro Detroit residents knew the truth. And the bottom line is that is the role of the media to open up and talk about something that clearly smells a little funky.
And they never touched the issue of people being forced to identify themselves to attend meetings, which is a direct and blatant violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Scotty, that's been addressed. That's being addressed right now. We've been ordered to move our meetings from police headquarters.
Yeah.
So
by who? Who ordered that? Daryl?
Corporation Counsel has to enforce the decisions of the Inspector General. So Corporation Counsel is telling us we have to move those meetings. Another thing that we need to, let's not forget, the role that Willie Bell has played in co-signing all of this stuff. He's accepted, he's covered it up, he has gone on the lawn. I mean, even to the point where they've removed me from chairpersons and chairmanships on the board. When I had issues with the budget, they were wasting dollars, and I had a problem with it, and I spoke on it. The other thing, if you look at right now, they have removed me from all the committees except for the Citizens Complaint Committee. And, and it's like, this is wrong.
Now, when you say they, is it the chair? Who removed you? Does the chair have the power to remove?
We're going to say the chair, Willie Bell, had taken me off all committees except for the Citizens Complaint Committee. And this is what you have to understand, that this is why Willie Bell, Lisa Carter, and they were really attacking and harassing Commissioner Burton, because this was all retaliation. Because when that complaint was filed, they didn't know who did it, and they thought that he had did that complaint. When all these things come out, they were trying to get him to the point where he was going to quit or step down. They're thinking they will go away. This is why he was arrested, why he was accosted at a meeting, why he was told he was out of order. And he was just simply speaking up and speaking the same dialect that what we were trying to tell them all along. We are in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Right. We are in violation of the charter of the city of Detroit, and we need to correct ourselves. I even put a motion out on, I think it was either May, the first meeting in May. My motion clearly said that We follow the language of the charter in section 7-802. Let me hand you a copy of that so you can read it, which clearly says that all meetings shall be held in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, and they voted that down.
And another thing is, I remember sitting down talking with Commissioner Bell, and I said, Commissioner Bell, you are wrong. You are wrong for how you are directing and leading this board, and that the people of the citizens of Detroit wants the board to be in compliance. Oftentimes I will get shut down. Those meetings.
Commissioner Burton, I got a quick question. The thing that stinks about this is, and I think, you two guys are what I call proud Americans, because you're talking about transparency. And this has been the issue that I've constantly heard when we talk about what's going on with the police board, when we talk about what's going on with the Charter Review Commission, when we talk about what's going on in City Hall, when we talk about what's going on even in the halls of Washington, D.C. at the White House, is transparency. And we're talking about what sounds like, I don't want to put any names to it, but it sounds like we're dealing with a stinky fish called corruption.
And something, like you said, Brandon Brice, something stinks.
Now, do you think it smells bad enough, though?
And it's going on right here in the city of Detroit, and the subject, once again, transparency.
Do you think it smells bad enough? And I put this out there for Commissioners Burton and Browne.
Quite some time, transparency.
I'm putting this out there to Commissioners Burton and Browne. Do you think that it smells bad enough for some of the rubber stamps of Commissioner Bell to start maybe turning their noses up and maybe setting their alliances elsewhere?
Well, Scotty, one of the things that I've noticed, and I was talking with Commissioner Burton about it, we've been paying close attention to it. If you notice that when we have these votes, they don't want to do the roll call vote. And I tell Burton, let them do it. Let them go ahead and do what they do. And you notice that everyone on that board is not voting. So now we need to go back and realize how many of these motions really passed, how many of them really failed. Because when you think about it, you hear it, they're not speaking up and they are not voting.
So hold on. So if they're not voting, are they abstaining?
They're not doing anything.
They're not participating, basically, is what you're saying.
Hicks is counting votes without them actually saying anything.
Wow.
Right. So we've been paying attention to that. So that's going to be the next issue that we're going to have to tackle. And that's why I think that
under the Robert's Rules of Orders, I think any member can call for an actual roll call vote.
They can.
That they've been denying, they've been ignoring Commissioner Burton, and they've been denying him the opportunity for a record roll call vote.
Yeah, I think under the Robert's Rules, and I'm not sure unless the Police Commission has adopted different ones, I think any member can actually call for a roll call.
Yeah.
The problem is they break the rules.
I know he said it because I told him to say it.
Another thing is, this is nothing but harassment coming from the past chair, Willie Bell, and the current chair, Lisa Carter. I came very close to our listening audience to actually submit my resignation. Came very close. It was Commissioner Darryl Brown out of District 1 that said, "Brother, don't do it. Hang in there." And he said that people are listening, and people are coming to the meetings, and they are engaged and informed of what's going on, and that they also learning that what's going on the board should not be happening here or anywhere else. I remember sending a text message to Sam Riddle, my spokesperson, saying, I'm thinking about resigning, thinking about leaving. And I remember we got together and we talked, and he said that the citizens of Detroit, District 5, elected you. Keep serving. Don't step away.
You know, another thing that we need to harp on too, Bob and Brandon, so you guys understand this, that I'm getting sick and tired of the fact that Lisa Carter and Willie Bell and them are keep trying to put this mantra out there that we're volunteers. When I say, okay, they may have a legitimate right, but some of us knocked on over 1,000 doors asking people to put us in this position. that we would have the time to do this, that we would be there to do these things, to handle these duties, and to be ethical, and all of this stuff. And for them to sit back and try to harp on, well, I'm a volunteer, as if that you're trying to discredit and play down your responsibility, that just because you're a volunteer doesn't excuse your ignorance. It doesn't excuse you being unethical.
Well, you're an official board of the city of Detroit in the charter, so I mean, it's whether you volunteer for it or not, there's rules that have to be followed.
And
in
it's
the
not
process.
as if there weren't other people willing to do the job if they didn't feel they were up to it.
Let me ask both of you guys really quick before we move on. You know, who is the person to blame? Who's the real culprit behind what's going on, not just in the Charter Review Commission, but also in the police board? I mean, it seems like the same story that I'm hearing throughout the city of Detroit is this whole non-transparency, pay-to-play, things that are not public to the average Detroit citizen and voter.
Yeah.
Who's the real person? Who's the real culprit in all of this?
Brandon, here's what I'm going to say. I hear where you're going with it.
I didn't say it.
I know what you're saying, but I'm going to say it. I was not a Mike Duggan supporter, okay? And I had my reasons. It wasn't to do nothing with it being white or anything like that. I wasn't supporting the transplant politician.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, okay, but the things that he has done, and even though that he is the mayor, just like, you know, even though we don't agree with the policies of Donald Trump, but he is the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but he is the mayor of the city of Detroit. Now, me personally, I don't think the mayor is deep diving down this far to do these things.
Yeah, I don't know if he's checking all the boxes on something like this. That
Brandon, are you saying there maybe is a man behind the curtain?
I'd like to know who the man behind the mirror is, because it sounds like.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay, go ahead. Who is it?
In my opinion, on the board, it's three of them. And it's those three people that keep circulating the office of the chair and vice chair between three people on that board, and they have done it. And they managed to manipulate these other members on the board to believe that they're showing some type of leadership.
Okay, Daryl, who are the three?
That would be Willie Bell, Lisa Carter, and Eva DeWash. And it's like they tag team and they manipulate these other people on the board that thinking they have, and they got these people, they have the staff and everyone thinking that they are the board. And I keep telling them, no, they're not. This stuff has to come before us. If it doesn't, there's a consequences they're going to have to pay. And the part of you seeing the consequences that they're paying is right now.
Okay, before we go to break, we have one of our co-hosts here, Elena, that wants to join in on this conversation. She must be driving home and listen to this. Elena, you're on here.
Hi. Now I'm already home and I'm listening, and I'm really happy to hear our Commissioner Willie Birton on the line. We have a small minority of people that are really standing up for the people of Detroit, and a majority of people who are in elected offices who are not. And it's really important that the people support our police commissioner, Willie Birton, and our three people on the Charter Commission, because it's very, very hard to do this in the face of the media, in the face of the people who will shun you when you're not going to get invited to the nice parties, you're not going to get all the hookups, but you're doing what's right for the people. And Willie Birton, the fact that you have really stood up against facial recognition surveillance is so essential. People must understand that we are being spied upon by forces who have absolutely no permission to do so. I really appreciate you standing up against that, and I'm really disappointed that my representative, Lisa Carter of District 6, supported that. I voted for her and I supported her in good faith. And when it doesn't matter if we're friends, it doesn't matter if we're colleagues or neighbors, we must continue to keep each other honest. Thank you.
Oh, and
thanks, Elena.
Thank you. On that note, I just felt like this is an appropriate time to bring up that on tomorrow, Monday the 4th, at the Eastern Campus of Wayne County Community College District at 6 p.m., there will be a meeting organized by Councilman Spivey of the 4th District, which is Willie Bell's district, by the way, on facial recognition. And the city council still has a role to play on this, and policy could be changed through legislative action by the city council. So there's still a chance for change for better or for worse on this issue coming up, and I urge people to show up at that meeting and have their voices heard.
Let's not ignore this fact. Let's not ignore this fact.
I want to thank you. If I'm still on the line, I would like to thank you for that. And I do support Spivey continuously trying to redeem himself after supporting the consent agreement.
Okay. We have to, as you know, Elena, we have to go to break here, or a little bit past it. Rob and Walter, hold on. I'll tell you what, Daryl and Willie, hold on as well. We're going to be right back. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation.
This is Reverend Sharpton, and on the last Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton.
Oh, I just don't count the votes. They're not there when the vote. They just get.
I just answered you before, sir, that I know thousands of people that are in the rooms when the votes come in. Every candidate has people in the room. When I've run, I have people in the room. Everybody running is going to have people in the room when the count comes in. The question is making sure we get the right count. The count does not come from them counting ballots. The count comes through technology. This is not 1890. We're not having people at the courthouse standing in line or the schoolhouse and you see the ballot. The question is making sure you have the right voting companies, that they're not hacked or not in any way eliminated. You could have everybody in the world in the room. They will be in the room getting the wrong numbers. So keep it real daily with me, Al Sharpton.
Are you getting the most out of your Medicare plan? Are you sure? Many people with Medicare are eligible for plans that include extra benefits in addition to those found in original Medicare. Benefits like dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free with no obligation to enroll. In addition to hospital and medical coverage, at no extra cost, you could also get coverage for prescription drugs, dental, hearing, vision, and more. In many areas, plans with benefits are available with $0 copays for many services, $0 monthly premiums, or $0 deductibles. That's hospital, medical, prescription drug, dental coverage, and more included in one plan with premiums that may be as low as $0 a month. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free and there's no obligation to enroll.
Call 1-800-571-8580. That's 1-800-571-8580.
Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? If so, you may qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. The Fresh Start program is one of the biggest tax breaks the IRS has offered. Call Tax Group Center at 800-685-6150 to see if you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. Their team of tax experts and attorneys will get you the best tax settlement possible. Call 800-685-6150 now to learn if you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. Call Tax Group Center at 800-685-6150. 800-685-6150.
Attention! In July 2018, Bayer announced that it will be halting its sales of Assure. The Assure birth control may break or migrate after insertion, puncturing the fallopian tube, resulting in corrective surgery to remove the device. Thousands of women have reported debilitating health problems to the FDA. In April 2018, the FDA restricted sales of Assure to protect women and required that patients receive risk information.
Please call 800-425-9539.
Listen up, America. Are you or a loved one suffering with an addiction to alcohol, opiates, prescription painkillers, or other drugs? There is hope. Medication-assisted treatment is proven most effective for opiate addiction recovery. Utilizing medications such as methadone, Suboxone, and Subutex, combined with inpatient treatment, you can achieve lasting recovery. Most insurance is accepted, so call us now. Please call 800-625-5860.
3, 2, 1.
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation. The most powerful voices in the African American community are all right here on the new 910 AM Radio Superstation. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit. 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
Good morning. You listen to 910 AM, the Superstation. You can join us at 313-778-7600. That's 313-778-7600. My name's Robert Ficano, here with Brandon Brice, our political consultant, Scotty Boman. On the line also with us is Darryl Brown, Police Commissioner, and Willie Birton, Police Commissioner. We had some callers here that wanted to chirp in. Rob, you're on with the panel.
Yeah, good morning. I commend Willie Birton and Mr. Browne for being on your show this morning, but, I know Mr. Burton.
Oops.
Yeah, what happened to you?
You got cut off. It dropped off. Okay, call back, Rob.
But listening to 50,000 watts right here on 910 AM, the Robert Ficano Show. Please call back in. We want to hear from you.
Okay, Walter, you're on with the panel.
It's about dag blasted time, Bob. And by the way, where's your flag kick, Mr. Filibuster and Keith?
He'll eventually get here. Go ahead, Walter. What's on your mind?
Yeah, what's on my mind is how you guys are kind of ignoring certain things. The headlines like the white Obama has just got out of the race. You know what that is? Beto O'Rourke, good riddance.
No,
that's right. I call him. That's right. I call him the white Obama.
This guy was never the white Obama.
Yes, he's one of.
You mean the one who almost beat Ted Cruz?
Huh?
The one who almost beat Ted Cruz? Is that who you're talking about?
They know the Beto.
Those brain dead voters, the Kool-Aid drinkers in Texas are out of their minds. The thought that guy and all those Democrats is running, the thought that they can get one vote puzzles me.
Well, I mean, you got it. He was a good candidate. He lost for U.S. Senate.
I've
done that twice. That's a really good qualification for president.
The guy looked presidential, but he was never a candidate. He was never a good candidate from the start.
Yeah, there's a big article in Politico about.
You're correct on that one, Brandon.
A lot of people. But I'll tell you what, Walter, any one of those candidates on that stage can beat Donald Trump.
No, I
don't know about that.
Bob, you're still living in the past. That has been debunked.
Oh, okay.
If you rely on the polls, I know you relied on the polls when Donald Trump.
Remember Donald Trump, how he kept bragging about what he looked like in the polls? Remember that when he was running? That's all he talked about is how good he was doing in the polls. Remember that?
Forget about that. He's in office. He won in spite of the polls. What I'm saying is, you guys are talking about jobs. And by the way, why are you guys still talking about problems? I thought, Bob, I know you still got a tingle up your leg for Obama, but where's the hope and change with Obama? The worst president. That's right.
He set up the economy, Walter, so that Trump could have the success that he's having with this.
You're making it up. That's
okay.
That's the figment of your imagination.
No, I think Donald Trump is the king of making things up. Okay, that man can't. He lies like every 30 seconds about something. All right.
I love it when Democrats and Republicans go try to take each other down.
He said he got the Midas touch.
Hey, Bob, don't try to be like your filibuster and friend Keith. But let me say this. I'm gonna get off here real quick. Let me say this. I want to end on this. Because of Donald Trump, there's more jobs in America than there are citizens. And also, remember, Barack Obama, the great job destroyer.
Oh, really? Okay, ask that of Chrysler or General Motors if he's a great job destroyer. Okay. Okay, Walter, we appreciate you. Have a great Sunday. Rob joined us back. Rob, you're back on with the panel?
Yeah, what I was saying, that I appreciate Mr. Burton and Mr. Browne for being on the show. Well, he always on the show anyway. Well, my point is, I'm going to make it real brief. Transparency, to me is a joke. Once people get into office, they do what they want to do. They take you where they say they're going to take you. And then once they get there, they're not going to do nothing they say they're going to do. And if this is all about facial recognition, I was on board with Mr. Burton. But now, as I look at this city under siege the way it is, we need some type of system that's in place that's going to put these people away, because it's senseless when a man can't even go to the gas station and then get robbed and give up his keys and then somebody still turn around and shoot him. Then they taking away his family, his loved ones, and everything. So just to say that we don't need this. We need something in place because this city is going to the dogs.
So actually, I'm glad you said that, because I think one of the challenges that we have is that program of what we need is we need to get folks back to work. We got too many folks in the city that ain't working. That's the first thing, because when you got your own money, you don't need my money.
Mr. Burton, my problem is that you be talking about we need to get people back to work, but these people don't want to work. You can't.
That's not true. Look at all the people that lined up for those Chrysler jobs. I mean, yeah. Look, you open up a job fair and say like Chrysler or something like that, they line up for miles in order to take those jobs. The problem,
get up and go to work.
Well, hold on. The other thing that you mentioned, and I'll be honest with you, I am a supporter of the death penalty, but I also think when it comes to prison, we need to make prison is not the country club. When you go to prison, you should not have access to Netflix. I mean, prison. You should know you in prison, and so we got people who they commit crimes. I'll tell you why. They commit crimes because they're not afraid to go to prison. It's a rites of passage.
I'm going to disagree with my host here.
We need to bring
haven't
bamboo
been part
beating.
of the correction system here for 20 years.
Bamboo beating should be brought back to the United States.
They're talking about criminal justice reform, and even Trump is into criminal justice reform as to what's going on.
Don't do bamboo. That's my mentality.
And look at some of the stuff you have. You have that. You have these people that are wrongly convicted.
Exactly.
And they got $1 million from the city.
And so if we get the death penalty, as Mr. Brice is, Brandon Brice over here is suggesting,
scratch the death penalty.
They're going to be executing innocent people.
Scrap the death penalty. We need to hire one of them guys from Singapore and bring them over here and do one day of bamboo beating. You'll never go back to prison.
Can I say this before I go?
Hold on. Go ahead, Rob. What do you want to say?
I just want to say this, man. I sat on the down at Frank Murphy Hall, sitting in the courtroom there. I notice people when they get called to serve, they get up there, they don't want to serve. But we have to have people more, to understanding on sitting there, learning and listening, and what goes on through the process. And then, so when you look at that, people understand that prison ain't for a place for nobody to be, and then they stop doing some of the things they doing once they listen and learn something. And that's just our problem. We don't want to serve. You got people from the outside, they come in, they serve, and all they want to do is go back home. And they find you guilty and then send you on your way. And it's just the bottom line. It's a shame that our people don't want to serve, bro. So
that's always been a problem generationally, getting people on juries and stuff. Okay, and that's one of the problems with grand juries, that they are impaneled for such a long time that usually only retirees and senior citizens can sit on them, because they can be up to 4, 5, 6 months to do it, and you're not going to get people, if they actually have a job and everything else, for them to take that kind of time off for a grand jury.
The other thing is with prisons, the people that should be serving the most time seem to be serving the least time often, and the people that should be serving the least time often seem to be serving the most time. I mean, for instance, every time I hear about the fact that John Hinckley Jr., who, seriously permanently disabled Mr. Brady and attempted to kill Ronald Reagan, a president, is, walking free. And then other times I hear about people, I think it was Squeaky Fromm is out, or people who have committed some very serious crimes that you just would assume they would at least have life in prison for, walking free. And then I turn around and go, but Rick Wershey is still in prison. You know, and now we got Kwame Kilpatrick, who did some bad things, but I think he's been in long enough at this point for, you know, the nature of what he did.
Serial killers don't get 20
Yeah,
years,
exactly.
my friend. I'm sorry.
And anyone committing a deliberate homicide, there's no reason they should ever be out, and yet they frequently get out. And then we got people who've done nonviolent offenses, often kind of procedural or, you know, offenses that aren't causing direct harm, serving very long prison sentences.
Okay. You can't have your cake. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Part of some of those long-term homicides that got out is because of the mental health issue. We talk about mental health issues when you talk about guns and everything else, and we got a screen for it. Quite frankly, Hinckley and them, and it's repulsive to a lot of people, but it was a mental health issue that why he's out. It wasn't. It gets into a whole legal technical aspect of it, but you got in our country under our form of criminal justice, you got to have intent, specific intent that you're committing the crime that you're going to do. If you are mentally incapacitated, in theory, you cannot formulate the intent to commit that crime in it. Now, it gets into a technical area. That's why some of the people, after years and years and years, once they're considered to be, quote, cured, and it's by medication and some of the other things. That's why they're saying that you know, they never formulated the intent, and that's why they were able to go ahead and
can we just
get out?
Can we just adopt?
Well, anyway,
hold on, guys. Can we just adopt?
Hit me once.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Burton, look, I commend you. Keep doing what you're doing, Mr. Browne. Y'all keep doing what you're doing, and then one day, when that day is gonna come, you're going to be commended, and I hope to see you in Lansing, my brother. Y'all be good.
All right, thank you.
Amen.
All right, we got a number of callers here.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. We appreciate it. Tom, you're on with the panel?
Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Good. What's on your mind?
So I just wanted to chime in about what's been going on in the city, especially with the mayor's administration and the IG report and the fact that, you know, transparency is just pretty much gone in not only Detroit government, but even in the state of Michigan. Many people might not know that the governor just eliminated several provisions in executive branch policies that protected whistleblowers. So at the same time, we're seeing in the city of Detroit, the mayor go through and be investigated for corrupt activities and not being transparent. The board of police commissioners is violating the Open Meetings Act. I mean, this is something we got to change.
The AG has to do her job, bottom line.
Oh, Tom, you were on here a little bit back talking about that $250 million bond proposal. I understand the city council voted to put that on the ballot now.
Have they voted yes on that?
Mm-hmm. They did, yeah. And one of the things that they were talking about is when did they put it on? Did they put it on for the primary, or did they put it on for the general? And that makes a big difference because primary turnout in Detroit, just in general, really, is so much lower.
Well, that's across the board. That's in every community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this will get the coverage it deserves. I mean, if you have it in the presidential primary, for instance, I almost picture this getting zero coverage. And then, unfortunately, it's my experience in the city has been that when the voters are underinformed, they tend to assume that a proposal is on the ballot because it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's and just raising it real quick. One of the other problems, you talk about transparency and stuff. There's two issues. Number one, the legislature and the governor are exempt from the FOIA, Freedom of Information. So all their correspondence and everything else that everybody else has, including the mayor, in theory, that's how the Free Press got some of the information on some of his issues and things like that. That's how they were able to get it. Believe it or not, the legislature and the governor are exempt from that. So all their emails and everything else you cannot get a hold of, and that's on government servers and things such as that. That's part of it. The other problem, I think, that I'd look at is that you say, well, the media is supposed to expose these and things like that. How many people are reading Detroit News and Free Press now? I mean, they may do these stories and looking at it and, you know, jumping up and down about it, but you look at it from a standpoint of actual the pool of people that read it, it's nothing close to what it once was. And, you know, they don't really publish anymore. They publish 3 times a week I think a hard newspaper or whatever it is, people are not paying attention to the media like they once did.
Well,
which creates one of the issues.
So that's interesting because, I think now with kind of mobile technology, people are getting their news from their phones. They're getting their news in real time. But I think one of the challenges, and I want to go back to what the guy was saying earlier, is that, we really need to adopt a zero tolerance when it comes to any form of corruption, period. And it seems that we're accepting it at our city level. We're accepting it at our federal level, to the point where the name of the game in 2019 has unfortunately become corruption, and we turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah, but okay. So sometimes they just legalize it, don't they? I mean, let's face it. All the tax breaks and everything else that's there. That if it wasn't for the statute, if it wasn't for the law, they wouldn't be able to get it, right? But instead, we're actually giving, and a lot of it's discretionary. You got the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and stuff like that. They're able to hand out these tax breaks, and as county executive, we had handed out some as well. I'm not denying that, but in a way, isn't that telling the business community, here's some help for what you're going to do, and it's a form of government assistance? It's part of it.
It's a very fine line, Bob, but I also think that, part of that is transparency. Part of that is, whatever is on email needs to remain so that the people can evaluate. Part of that is how do we get just good, clean government? And it seems like that doesn't exist in City Hall. That definitely does not exist in Washington right now. And I think what's going to happen is the American people, as well as Detroit residents, are going to say enough is enough.
Or they're just going to turn away from it, which is the bad part.
That too.
That's one thing I do run into when I was going door to door, petitioning most recently about the community advisory councils. But any time I've been going door to door, a common refrain I get from people who stay out of politics or just don't want to do anything other than maybe vote is that they believe that the elected people are going to do whatever they're going to do, and it doesn't matter what they do. And so they're not going to do anything because it's a waste of a time to do anything, because they're going to do what they're going to do, and the people that are going to get in are going to get in.
Okay, Tom, we got to go to break. I appreciate it. Our board man is going nuts on us here. We're way over. I appreciate it. David, Mr. Positive, hold on. We're going to get to you right after the break. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation.
Have you been denied credit or hit with high interest rates? A low credit score happens to many of us, and millions of people are victims of incorrect items on their credit reports and don't even know it. That's why you need credit repair now. Our proven process has resulted in past clients seeing on average 11 negative items removed from their credit report and a 40-point increase after the first 4 months in our program. Call now and request your credit report and credit score for free in minutes.
Call 1-800-783-9197.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Since 2014, Addiction Hope and Helpline has answered calls for recovery and treatment 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're depressed, drinking, using drugs, or taking pills, call now and talk to someone who cares.
I had problems just getting to sleep, drinking and using pills every night.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Most insurance covers substance abuse. You can get back on track. Call now for hope and help with proven gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I have something to hold on to for strength. I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call 800-379-4799, 800-379-4799.
I want to thank my mommy for loving me so much, for taking me to the doctor when I broke my foot,
for leaving me alone when I wanted to be alone.
And now, as a grown-up, I'm thankful for being able to take care of you, my dear mom, for taking you to your therapies, for understanding that sometimes you simply want to be alone.
Roles change without us noticing. That's why AARP gives you the information to provide even better care for your loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Listen up, America. Are you or a loved one suffering with an addiction to alcohol, opiates, prescription painkillers, or other drugs? There is hope. Medication-assisted treatment is proven most effective for opiate addiction recovery. Utilizing medications such as methadone, Suboxone, and Subutex, combined with inpatient treatment, you can achieve lasting recovery. Most insurance is accepted, so call us now. Please call 800-625-5860.
Good morning. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. My name is Robert Ficano. In studio, we have Scotty Boman, our libertarian, and Brandon Brice, a political consultant that's with us. We want to get in on the phone. We have Police Commissioners Browne and Burton. We have a couple callers we want to get to here. Mr. Positive, you're on with the panel.
Thank you, dear.
Hello. I think you're talking to your wife, not us. Go ahead. Mr. Positive?
We can find Mr. Positive.
Oh, yes. Hey.
Yes.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Hey, let me get this straight, Bobby. You feel that everyone can beat Trump. You feel that Trump took over Obama's legacy with the way the economy's going and everything's going more positive, as the electrifying Mr. Positive would say. Now, let me get this straight. You feel that someone, like an Elizabeth Warren, and help me out, Scotty, if you use that libertarian thinking, that someone who's going to want to implement a plan for 22 trillion to 34 trillion, depending on the thing, you don't think that's going to change the economy ultimately and turn it around for the worse?
Well, remember, everybody said that Obamacare was going to sink the economy. Wasn't that the big thing that the Republicans were saying? They were saying, oh, my God, we passed Obamacare. You're taking over the health industry. Look what's going on. Well, it didn't sink it, did it? It didn't sink it.
But it was a $2,000 tax. If you want to say that was the penalty, Mr. Positive, I'm sorry, you need to work for WWE because you came in sounding like The Rock, man. I love your voice. But anyway, getting back to my point is, I think one of the things that, when you talk about the Trump presidency is that we may not like him, we may not agree with him, but the bottom line is people are eating, the economy's moving, and folks still focus on pocketbook politics. And I think that's going to play a major role in the next election.
I focus on pocketbook politics myself, and what I'm saying is, it seems to me people they're eating, but they're having to maybe get their food from pantries or something because of the Trump taxes, putting them into near bankruptcy as far as the middle class goes. And what Mr. Positive is bringing up about debts, yeah, that does make a difference. And under Trump, the national debt has gone up by $8.3 trillion.
Well, Republicans don't worry about debt.
There's something to put in your pocketbook.
They don't care about deficits. They don't care about deficits.
I'll take that $8.3 trillion.
That's all McConnell would talk. About for a while. Now he won't even touch it, okay? He's going to have impeachment to worry about pretty soon here. David, you're on with the panel.
Okay, thanks, Bob, for taking my call. One of your panel men stated earlier that Harmon Kilpatrick got too many years, those 28 years he was convicted for on the federal charges. Mm-hmm. Well, I say that no, he deserved that many years. That's what he was convicted on. Mm-hmm. And number one reason is that Kwame Kilpatrick had the opportunity to take a plea deal. He could have done 7 years, and he would be out of prison today. So I have no sympathy for him. And one of the things also, Sam Riddle and a couple of other black folks always be on 910 talking about free Kwame. But none of these black folks have raised any money to get this guy out of prison. Because the federal government, they like cash just like everybody else do. And $1 million could get him out of prison. Yeah. So
I don't know if $1 million could get him out of prison, but David, in theory, if you're facing a criminal trial, is it fair that they want to increase the penalty on you because you choose to engage your constitutional right of going to trial Think about it. They're saying if you don't go to trial and you make this easy on us, you only get 7 years. If you exercise your actual constitutional right of going to trial, we're really going to hammer you for that. He got the difference because he exercised his constitutional right of going to trial. That's basically the difference between the plea bargain they offered and when he went to trial. And I don't think that's right. I don't think you should be penalized for actually exercising your constitutional right and going to trial.
I agree.
You
make a good judge.
But you know what? There was the opportunity. And, you know, you went to trial and you were found guilty by 12 members of the jury. So, you know what?
Yeah, but they went the jury.
So now he got to think about that now. You're in there for 28 years. Could have been, I guarantee he's thinking about, man.
He could be. He could
have been free, too.
He could be pardoned by Trump.
Free.
Yeah. He could be pardoned by Trump, too.
But hey.
I wouldn't hold my breath on that with it as well. David, it's a lot of people felt that the sentencing was beyond what most people get for that type of. Right. Look at the guy in I forget now, the governor in Illinois. He was selling Obama's seat once he had left the Senate. He was actually selling it. He got 14 years.
Yep.
Okay.
You know why he got 14 years?
Why?
He's white.
Huh?
Kwame is a black man. You know when you black in America, you're going to get punished more severely. So all these black men, you know this. So don't come crying after the fact.
Okay.
America is not equal, never has been. So I wish folks stop talking that crap. Because when you're a black man, you go in front of that jury and that court, you're going to be punished more severely than a white person.
So this would be one case in which doing half as much will get him twice as much.
No, Brandon Brice, you part of the panel this morning. Where we are right now when it comes to criminal justice reform.
Well, they're pushing it. I mean, we got to give Trump credit for it. He's actually pushing it.
We need to reform criminals. One of the things that this president has done.
Hold on, David.
One of the things that this president has done has really taken a stance on just criminal justice reform. Now, some may say that it's for political gain, it's for lowering, fixing
cost. Yeah, the conservatives don't like it because
they don't want to spend the money.
They don't want to spend the money on prisons.
But the reality is, you would have thought that this would have been Barack Obama's one of his many objectives, being that he's the first African American man, and we're seeing an African American crisis in our penal system.
He started to go after it the last year and a half of his presidency.
But he had 8 years. And so I think that is, when it comes down to, once again, and I tell people this, you may not like Trump, you may hate the guy's guts, but the guy has been very vocal. And I think one of the most interesting things he ever said on his campaign.
He's vocal, all right. He lies all the time.
That's true, too. But one of the most interesting things that he said is, what do you got to lose? And when we look at certain areas of Detroit and Baltimore and Chicago that literally there's massacres every day, black folks have to start saying, you know what do we got to lose?
Okay. David, thanks for calling. Go ahead. What do you want to say? Last word. Go ahead.
Okay, the last word. There's no need for no criminal justice reform. Look, the majority, you got a large percentage of blacks who are in prison. This is what this is all about. These folks went to trial and were convicted, and they belong there. If you don't believe me, I always watch my favorite show, The First 48 Hours. Who's on there committing all these murders? Black folks. Okay.
All right, David. Also pick up the News or Free Press today and see the people that are winning judgments because they've been unjustly convicted as well. One guy just got $1 million for the wrongful conviction. Okay, David, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Have a good Sunday. Next up, we have Harry. Harry, you're on with the panel.
Hey, a couple of quick comments. I'd like to comment about Kwame. That you say black people and Trump. Trump is over 30%, going towards 40% with his approval among blacks. It's only black people in the media and like on the black radio stations and all that are 100% against him. When you go out in the black community, he's polling at over 30% now among blacks, you know, for your information. But I wanted to disagree with your last caller. It's not black and white. It's dumb and it's stupid and smart. That's what, and what it is I know Kwame feels like an idiot this past couple of weeks, because if he had been smart, he would have done like Mike Duggan and erased all the emails and text messages that started his whole downfall. Kwame obviously didn't know that if he just told his chief of staff, Christine Beatty,
delete,
to go and erase all the text messages and emails, then he could get on TV and laugh about the whole thing like Mayor Duggan did to us a couple of weeks ago.
But the system he was using was a texting system that featured the fact that the company would save the text messages for them.
It was in text messages were in their infancy at that time. The text messages were in their infancy at the time,
right?
And people didn't realize that the company that actually installed the technology was storing the text messages. It wasn't actually on a government server or anything that actually stored them.
Right.
Which actually screwed them up.
It's ignorance because, see, Mike Duggan, he's an attorney just like Kwame, and he knew that. And so he and some of his staff were actually using personal email accounts, the Inspector General came out and said. And that's a way of defeating FOIAs and just keeping your, from being indicted for your text messages and emails.
Harry, the private texts and emails will avoid a FOIA, but it will not avoid a subpoena.
That's right.
So if somebody thinks that he's actually doing a criminal act, this can be subpoenaed.
The difference is, sir, that if you do a FOIA request for files that are on government-owned mail servers, they can get turned in by the city's IT department. If I get a FOIA request and Mike has to go through his Prodigy email or whatever else he's using to get around, current laws and best practices, then I have to get the emails from him, or I have to go subpoena Google, or I have to go subpoena Yahoo or Prodigy or whatever, or AOL online or whatever he's using, and it's a nightmare. That's why it's common practice and common knowledge that government officials should use government servers. But, of course, he and his chief of staff didn't do that. But again, it comes down, technically it's not illegal, just like he got on TV and laughed at us all and told us it's not illegal, ha-ha, everybody go home. So that's the difference. It's not black and white. It's being a dumb criminal and a smart criminal.
But his emails were recovered, Harry. His emails on the government server were recovered. I mean, they did recover them.
Right, but he used a private server like Hillary Clinton, which is illegal. And it's against best practices, and it's against everything except an ordinance in the city of Detroit. So that's why Mike Duggan got to go on TV and laugh about the whole thing, and Kwame is doing 28 years.
Okay, let me put it this way. If you use your private email or private text to circumvent the law, at that point, that is illegal, and that can get subpoenaed. If you're using your private email to do that. Now, it would take a prosecutor or a U.S. attorney to subpoena.
But you're not supposed to use your private email. That's what the Inspector General said. That's best practices. It's common knowledge against attorneys that you don't go in and delete and prevent the release of emails while you're under an investigation for a divorce or federal charges or whatever.
You're not supposed to use your private email to conduct city business or county business or anything like that, but you have a right to have your private email to, am I coming home for dinner tonight?
That's what I was going to say. What about, how do you prevent, how do you allow people to have a private life who are public officials?
No, here's the bottom line. If you are discussing government business, it can be subpoenaed, bottom line.
Yeah. It should be on a government-owned server or owned by the people that you're supposed to be representing. And it is a million times harder to subpoena information from Google than it is to walk down the hall and get the IT department to do a printout if it's on a government server like it's supposed to be.
I don't know how much more the technology is advanced so much now that Google and them, they can immediately turn over what the actual texts
You
are.
can't even call Google on the phone. You know that, right?
Okay, but I mean, they can't ignore a subpoena.
You're skating past the intention of the law, sir. You cannot call Yahoo or Google and say, hey, I need my emails. It's a long, drawn-out process that differs from day to night from going to the IT department and say, hey, I have a court order for all Duggan's emails. Print it out. That happens in about 10 minutes. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but I also believe that if you go on your private email, you can go into the inbox and some of the other things, and they will have the whole history of what your emails were. You can go all the way back.
Yeah, but then you're dependent on the person that's a crook to go ahead and do all that. You don't see the difference? If you're subpoenaed and I can go to your company's IT department and get the printout, that's different.
Harry, I see the difference, but the distinction is that if it's a private transaction that is not criminal, then the public really doesn't have a right to see it.
Right. The IT department said that he was transacting public. The IG report that came out 2 weeks ago said that he and his staff were conducting public policy city business on private emails. There's no if to it. That was in the Inspector General's report. He did a sneaky, cowardly, criminal against that best practices thing.
Okay, Harry, but there's still the ultimate with the Attorney General. If she feels that he was circumventing the laws by doing that, she can actually investigate it and bring a cause of or bring a criminal complaint.
How many people have been in jail for killing people in Flint?
Let me just say. Let me just say this, guy. Hold on. We can put all this to rest. The bottom line is there are 3 levels of law enforcement, i.e. the Wayne County prosecutor, i.e. the state attorney general, and the U.S. attorney do their jobs. Bottom line.
Don't hold your breath.
Okay. All right, Harry. We appreciate you. You have a good Sunday, Harry. We appreciate it. Thanks for calling in. Ray, you're on with the panel. Ray?
Good morning.
Good morning.
With your rationale, with what you said about Kwame and exercising his rights, so there should be no plea deals? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that there shouldn't be such a large gulf between if you took a plea and versus being found guilty. I mean, if you're saying he was offered 7 years and instead, there's a 21-year increase in the penalty, that's probably exorbitant.
Well, you realize that they have plea deals because they know they got you, right? They're trying to give you a little bit of a break here. So, come on, Bob.
They give you plea deals because the system couldn't take all the trials. That's why they're giving you a plea deal.
That was a slam dunk, as we used to say in law enforcement. So, additionally, if Obama was president when Kwame was convicted, why didn't Obama pardon him?
That's a great question.
I don't think Obama did. I don't think Obama would.
Obama didn't want that stink on his record.
He wouldn't have touched that with a 10-foot pole.
So I hear all this, free Kwame and all this, and are you kind of ridiculous?
Well, we're just saying that exercising your constitutional right should not result in such a disproportionate sentence because you do that. And plea bargaining is for the system so that it doesn't break down.
But
we have community activist Tom Choske on the line. Tom, where we are in the state of Michigan as far as criminal justice reform?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot going on. We were talking about Kwame, a case that was decided, 8 years ago. But some of the stuff that we got to deal with now is what's going to happen to our folks who are just getting out of prison. Because as we're trying to make this better, as Bob, you mentioned, and making sure that we have fairness in our sentencing, but then these folks come out and we got to get them jobs. One thing that just passed this past week, got signed by the governor, I believe it's called the Second Chance Act. So it makes it easier for people to get crimes expunged from their records, so that, let's say you have a marijuana conviction 10 or 15 years ago, it's not going to prevent you from getting a job. So we got a lot of stuff that we got to do. We got to reform our sentencing guidelines, but this is something that we're making a little bit of progress on here in Michigan, and it can help a lot of our folks out here in the city.
Tom Choske,
Tom,
community activist right here in southeastern Michigan.
Tom, I appreciate that. I'm 100% about second chances. But before you called, we talked about the fact that we have people that are literally not afraid to go to prison. Prison should mean something for those folks who are criminals.
No, I disagree with Brandon with that. I think I don't. First of all, losing your liberty is not a small thing.
It's a country club, Bob.
Oh no! Go to Jackson Prison and see how much of a country club that is. Okay, that is not a country club. If you go to the Macomb Prison, and if we have any listeners whose relatives have been in there, call us up, because it is not at all a country club.
We need to make prison. We need to make prison hard to the point where folks think twice about committing those crimes. Those that are actually guilty, not the ones that are innocent who just unfortunately get caught up in the system.
Yeah. In the final,
callers, we'd like for you to call in and weigh in on prison reform.
You can get us at 313-778-7600. We're getting near the end of the hour, though, and I thought that it's most appropriate we talk about Congressman John Conyers, who's passed away. He's at the African American Museum, I believe, today from 12 to 8. His service is going to be tomorrow at 11 o'clock at Greater Grace on 7 Mile in the city of Detroit. And just some of the reflections. I've had a lot, when I was in public office, I had a lot of interaction with the congressman, and he was someone actually you could work with.
That's right.
He was reasonable. And a person that was passionate about his issues. I can say that. And having been in law enforcement, he was very willing to work with us to try to make sure that civil rights were honored, and that the police were doing the right thing the right way with him. And it's, one of the issues that has come up is that why isn't he laying in state?
That's right.
In the Congress, instead of the way that it's, there's nothing wrong with the museum and things like that, but there have been others that, let's say, were of a much different persuasion, like Strom Thurmond.
Senator Byrd,
that have laid out in state over there, and haven't served as long as Congressman John Conyers, and accomplished some of the things that he was able to do.
And he's also responsible, really, for us having a national holiday for Martin Luther King, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a major sponsor of that bill.
The guy served 50 years and was the chair of a major committee. Judiciary. By default, he should at least have been allowed. Now, let's be very clear. We don't know what the family's wishes are, and I want to be respectful of that. But I also think that this is a man who has been a legend, not just to Detroit, but to the world when it comes to human rights. And I think as a result, he should be lying in the Capitol, not in Charles Wright.
And Brandon, let's not forget.
Well, you could do both.
Or do both.
He was also the founder and starter of the Black Caucus.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. I just want to let you guys know that yesterday, I don't know if many of you noticed about me, but I am a Mason. And we gave him
so mote it be.
That's right, brother.
Go ahead, Daryl.
We did those rights for him yesterday at the request of the family. It was a beautiful ceremony to really send our brother off like that. John Conyers was a friend. He helped me with a few things, gave me words of encouragement. But I agree with everyone. But it may just be the wishes of the family.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we really don't know.
We don't know that. But I know. But he was an awesome man. He was a good man. He was a hell of a servant to his community and to this country.
Right. And we can't tell either what Nancy Pelosi was thinking. She was sort of the one at the end that sort of pushed him out when she sort of broke and said, that because at first she was sort of standing with him, and then I think it just sort of piled on, and she just sort of broke, and I think she was looking at what her caucus was going to be in the future versus probably standing up and doing the right thing for due process.
But that even speaks to him as a gentleman, the fact that He didn't fight. He just bowed out gracefully. And what's going to be interesting is I believe history will treat John Conyers very kindly. When you look at all the accomplishments, when you look at the more than 50 years of service, when you look at the fact that literally John Conyers was a big part of getting Detroit back on the ground after the riots that people don't really talk about. And so,
along with Ken Cochran,
absolutely.
Yes, he was.
So,
yeah, there's a lot of positive about John Conyers that people now are starting, and it's unfortunate to remember his death. Versus, which is always a lot of times how it works, right? He was in the community. I'd been to a couple of events in the past couple of years he's been at, and things like that. But now suddenly you really don't hear all the accolades until, unfortunately, he's passed away. It'd be nice if you could have heard some of it in the past couple of years. I think it would have bolstered, his spirits and things like that.
Absolutely.
That was part of it. So, okay. Commissioner Burton and Browne, what's coming up in the future here? We got the last couple of minutes about the next meeting with the police commission.
I think a few commissioners should be worried about being removed from office. I think we should be focusing on the new staff. I think we need to start fresh because I just think everything up there has been changed, and I think we need to start fresh with the new staff. We've been given bad advice. I think the board I think that the people that have really see at this point that they've really been manipulated, and I think they're not happy about it. The commissioners, they've been manipulated, and it's just some people there with their own agendas. And just keep in mind, Scotty, I'm not one of those people that have my own agenda. I'm there to serve. I've been a public servant and a servant of the public all my life. As a firefighter, working with the Wayne County Sheriffs, anything I did, I've always served people. I've always put myself before people. So, put people before myself. But, I just think that we can't just lump all of our politicians into these categories of thinking they're self-serving people and they get in office and they do what they want to do. All of us are not like that. A lot of people, a lot of public servants want to do the right thing. T.D. Jakes said this. He tweeted this. Someone said it to me yesterday, and it was just awesome, and it gave me faith and hope and just in myself and in God that all it takes is one person to step up and do the right thing. But understand this, you're going to stand alone, and you're going to have one other person with you. And if you look at it right now, the situation that Commissioner Burton and I are in, we are those people that stepped up to do the right thing, and we are standing alone, along with our other colleague, Commissioner William Davis. So we're going to continue to do what we feel is the right thing to do. I had my issues about facial recognition. Some portions and parts of it I did support, and some other information I did not support. But my sway on my decision was those 100 emails I got the morning of that vote of my constituents encouraging me that, no, we don't want this. And I'm not there for me. I'm there for the public. I'm there for my constituents.
And I want to say, I want to thank Commissioner Darryl Brown for being on the right side of the issues from day one, along with Commissioner William Davis out of District 7, along with myself. Now is the time that the majority of the board get in line and stand on transparency. You heard from majority Detroiters, spoken loud and clear. We want transparency.
That's right.
So thank you, Commissioner, for being on the right side of transparency.
It's very easy to do. It's very easy to do.
Davis.
It's not hard. It's very easy to do.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on the show today. Police Commissioners Burton and Browne. Brandon Brice, a lot of insight here. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
As a political consultant, any campaigns you working on here?
Stay tuned.
Okay. He's also telling we haven't even had a chance to get to it. He thinks that our U.S. Senator is perhaps vulnerable. That's up this time.
Well, I think any way the wind goes, I think Michigan's a swing state. And I think, one of the challenges that we're going to have is the fight for Detroit. We talk about all throughout the state, but whoever wins Detroit will win that election.
And
you hear Bob Ficano run?
No, you don't hear Bob Ficano running at all.
It sounds like a job solicitation there, Brandon.
Bob, can I intervene for 2 seconds, please?
Sure.
I like for everybody on the panel, including with Commissioner Darryl Brown, Tom Choske, and those that's in the studio, with 5 seconds or less, what is your best memory of the Honorable Congressman John Conyers?
I can start it off. I had to work with him on a couple law enforcement issues, and he was very open and willing to do that. Back then, they used to call it driving while black. They've changed.
They still do.
Yeah, they've changed the definition of it a little bit, but we worked with him when I was sheriff, and we were able to get some policies in that were very instrumental and comfortable with him.
I remember one time I was an inkster at a community event, and the congressman showed up, and I said to the congressman, he said, "Wow, congressman," I said, "You everywhere," and he said, "I'm old, I'm not dead."
Real quick,
my father would comment on how he marched with Martin Luther King, and my father also marched with Martin Luther King, and that was something I think that was a good memory of him.
Okay.
Well, as everybody knows, I remember sitting down talking with him. He was the encouragement and gave me the direction of how I should run for office, and to always have some method of ethics about myself, and always put the people before yourself, and they will always serve you.
Okay. Real quick, Willie, what do you do?
That was at that Coney Island on Livernois.
My best memory of the Honorable Congressman John Conyers, I got a chance to spend a lot of time with him last year as he was telling me to always fight for the people and always do what's right and always be for transparency. And I will never forget, I'll leave this in closing, I remember taking a picture with the Honorable Congressman several years back, and he said, "Young man, button that jacket." So, every time I'm taking a photo op with
you're buttoning it.
Button that jacket.
And make sure you can fit around it. That's what we always say. It's getting harder and harder the older we get. I want to thank everybody for coming on today. My name is Robert Ficano, along with Brandon Brice and with Scotty Boman and Police Commissioners Burton and Browne. Appreciate it very, very much. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation, and we'll be back with you next week.
It's good when your people just there to help your problems and help you smile about it while finding a way to solve them. Look at here. Let me keep it 100 and let me tell you how you hold me down is something I genuinely value. I got a clearer view.
Hi.